You know where you are!
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 480. My name is Brando. Welcome back to the podcast, Mr. Pär Sundström of Sabaton. How are you, sir?
Thank you. I'm great. I'm good. We're back again for another show, hopefully today. The last show that was supposed to be was canceled, unfortunately, but looks like everybody's back to health and happy to play tonight. So I'm excited, and yeah, and I'm hiding away a little bit from the sun, not to be roasted Swedish person. I do like the sun, so it's not about that, but it's actually pretty damn hot, and and I do get roasted very quickly.
Where in the world is Carmen
We're in
San
Austin,
Diego?
Austin, Texas.
Okay, Austin. You know, it's so funny. I was there. I've only been there once. I went for Austin City Limits back in 2019, right before the pandemic. And we just happened to go, my wife and I, on the coldest weekend. I came down with all like tank tops and just basketball jerseys. So I'm glad you're enjoying the heat. It's kind of cold up here in Queens, New York today. So I got my hoodie on. So I
Oh,
appreciate you. It's beautiful there. I look at that. If you're
yeah,
watching on
and
YouTube, just like clear skies. That's like Simpson clouds. That's how I describe
yeah,
them.
exactly. It's pretty damn good. And Austin is kind of cool because it's where Sabaton played the first show in the US. We actually played South by Southwest Festival on something called Swedish Metal or Scandinavian Metal Night. And there was a couple of Scandinavian metal bands, very tiny bands at that time in 2007 or 8. And we played a gig there, and we had to help out. It was pretty interesting. So uh, we kind of shared backline with some of the other bands, and several of the backline stuff didn't arrive. So when we started to play our gig, we had no cymbals for the drums. So they arrived during the show, and one guy in another band came onto the stage, screwing on the cymbals as our gig were ongoing. So our drummer got like, oh, first song he had only the hi-hat. Second song he got like, oh, maybe a ride and stuff. And by the end of the show, he had a full drum kit.
I love that. I mean, that's
Oh,
as metal gets. I mean, you don't plan it that way, but I mean, that's kind of cool, and it goes to show you and kind of where we are today, what a battle-tested band Sabaton is, and
yeah, we've done a lot of stuff.
which includes, I mean, I don't know if I would go on a beautiful day that like today, but we could plan ahead for October 30th and 31st to go see the tour to end all tours. I mean, this is going to be in theaters across the globe, but here specifically in North America, like around 500 theaters. I looked in my neck of the woods. There's Queens, and there's New York City, there's Long Island. I mean, when you talk about, as you were just talking about that early show till now, to getting a produced movie that can be seen around the world. I mean, is that like, do you take a step back and be like, whoa, where we came from? And it's like, does it get overwhelming, or are you constantly always thinking ahead? Because you're not just a member, you're the manager. It's like almost like the hair
True.
club for men, I'm not just a client, I'm also a member, you know what I mean? So
Mm.
like, how do you move forward? Do you look back, or do you just keep going ahead?
Um, so, well, most of the time I look ahead. And it's more what I do. I mean, but I've been hands-on with everything Sabaton has been doing for the last 25 years. So I am quite aware of all the steps we've been taking and the results and whatever reactions we got out of everything we've been doing. So I do feel very involved in everything. Um, and the last year, because this is our 25th anniversary year, and we spent it quite a lot. Of time this year dedicating to looking backwards in time including I've been sitting and working on the story for the Sabaton magazine, which is called Camouflage, our physical printed magazine that we like, and there's a second story. So I've been sitting together with our with my colleague who is writing everything, and it's not a small little thing, but we actually sat for 12 hours, divided into a couple of sessions, doing an interview that is split up into two to talk about the history of Sabaton, and we touched small part of it, but it was pretty interesting to look back and be reminded about some of the stuff that we've been doing. Because of course, there's some things in the past that blurs every now and then. But yeah, it's an interesting. But now when we are like, this cinema was another story that we were not like, we didn't know we're gonna do. It was not something that I was thinking about for too long. But going back and seeing the vibe of having our own poster hanging in the local cinema in Falun in our hometown, that's pretty emotional. I mean, having family members and friends and stuff going to the cinema where we used to grow up and watching whatever cartoons when we were kids, and then now we're hanging on the walls. That's damn cool. So and yeah, it's a great thing. The movie already had premiere in Europe. It was on the 11th of October. So now we're looking forward to the North American premiere, which is October 30 and 31. And we're actually going to see the movie with our touring crew here on a premiere together. So we're gonna see it together with the crew. It's gonna be good. But the story of this movie is pretty interesting, because we started out as we're sitting in England, and we are rehearsing for the tour to end all tours. And while we're doing that, we built everything, the full stage. We do the rehearsals with the pyros and with the full show. And then we do one night when we basically have recorded all our instruments, and we just go and sit on the audience side and watch the show and listen to it. Like, okay, play the show, like do it like playback, but yeah, with all the crew members, actors, fireworks, special effects. We did the whole thing. And then we were watching, like, is this cool? And we're like, yeah, this is damn cool. But it's a shame that this will only be shown like 24 cities in Europe, and that's it. And we felt like this can't be. We need to show this to more people. So we decided to record it. And we went to record 3 nights, because we didn't know the purpose of it, but we recorded 3 nights, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Stockholm. And when we looked at the result, Amsterdam was the coolest, because it was pretty much one of the few venues that was large enough to fit the entire production. So we recorded it, and at the end of the tour, I speak with one of my colleagues, and he's like, "What are you gonna do with it?" I'm like, "I'm thinking. I have some ideas." And he's like, "What about taking it to cinemas?" And I was like, "No idea. Don't know." And he's like, "I can help. I mean, we could try. I never done it, but let's see where we can go." And then we started like with this, and we turned to a distributor called Folkets Hus och Parker, which is is a very strange place to go. It's a Swedish collection of independent cinemas, sort of, and independent like old school venues from the 50s and stuff. And
That's
we
cool.
turned to them, and they were like, "Yeah, we are excited to try. I mean, we do distribute some like concept movies and stuff, but it's just in Scandinavia. But we would love to try to do this in the. We have the technical capabilities to do it globally, but we don't have any connections." But we're like, okay, let's start. And then we did it the typical Sabaton style. That means that we do this do-it-yourself style. And country by country, we added until we decided we couldn't add anymore because of the premiere was coming too close. But we managed 28 countries as a first run, 28 countries and 1,500 something cinemas.
Wow.
And we made unique like promotion plans in every territory, in every country, unique deals. It was super exciting, and we did this with a little team. I know that there are most who do these concert films, they do it differently. They turn to a big distribution who already have an established network, and then you have the movie in all the theaters, like guaranteed. But we went, as I said, the typical Sabaton way, and we didn't go the way that others do. So yeah, and but I'm super excited about the result.
I mean, it's
And
the fact that you keep adding shows that there's demand for it, and that's
yeah,
the most satisfying. And in addition to your hometown, and it's interesting. So you already have your Halloween plans set. Are you going to dress up on the 31st?
maybe. Now,
Maybe.
the fun thing is also, like, okay, so as you said, there's so many, and then you have several around the corner where you live, and so it's the same for everybody. Like, no matter where we are on this tour, and I check, and then it always locates the closest ones, and it's like no matter where we are, there's always some cinema very close.
Yeah,
It's
that's
great.
exactly what I did. Mhm.
And that's what also because there are so many showing it, there's going to be a lot of them that is not full packed, and there's a lot of them that is only a few people showing up to them and stuff like that. But I'm happy, and it's not about I need to see full venues. I'm so happy that it makes it available for so many people, and that's the phenomenal. I mean, as somebody here on the crew of Judas Priest that we are on tour with was like, "That's so cool! I can just walk from home and watch it. That's unbelievable." If it was an hour drive, I probably wouldn't go because I'm not that huge fan of you guys. But when it's 10 minutes walk from my house, I'm gonna go. So I'm like, okay, cool, fair enough.
It's interesting because you just did an interview with Blabbermouth that came out right before I started recording this, so it was kind of like a good prep for me. And you're talking about because metal is different where you are than here in North America and the States, and you were talking about because it's important that it's available, but how important is it to you? Because when you look at specifically Blabbermouth, and the comments are, I don't know, it shows a window into, I guess, society as a whole, where a lot of people are negative, where people are talking about, because in the interview it said, okay, who's going to be the next wave of metal bands once Metallica's done, Iron Maiden's done, Sabaton is here, and you guys have been doing it for 25 years, as you said. Then you see a bunch of arguments in the comments, whether or not, they're fans or whatever. Do you even focus on
Yeah,
that at all? Because you
no.
obviously you have, yeah, that's probably the best way to answer that. No, because
Yeah,
you don't need that.
but I do get excited. I mean, if people say it cannot be done, or you are not good enough and you can't do that and stuff, that always inspires me to do it. So if people think that they are like, aha, we are hurting them by saying bad stuff about this band, that just these people, they have no idea how this let's say reverse psychology works on a band like Sabaton, because it was always the strength of Sabaton to work against the wind. And so, yeah, I didn't watch them, but I can imagine what people say, like, you're not good enough, and you blah 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 blah. And okay, fair enough. Let's see.
See, it's not worth to quote any of them, but you answered kind of what I was going towards. If you use that as motivation, and you do, because sometimes you could get taken down by that. There are so many artists, especially young artists, that can be that are coming out today that can be taken down by social media. Do you find yourself maybe taking some of the younger bands under your wing, when you are on these tours, just to see, because it's a different world out there, and
Oh, yeah,
it's
I think it was always Sabaton did so much. I mean, running the Sabaton open air for all these years, we used that as a breeding ground. I mean, we brought always a lot of young bands there to give them an opportunity to play, and treating them very fair. I know, well, here in the US, it's kind of different from the mentality that we do. I mean, if you come and you are a new and upcoming band and you get to play on one festival, you get treated like shit, and it's kind of normal. The same in some other European countries. UK phenomenally bad in treating bands that are not the headliners. But we always like, no matter for the Sabaton open air, it didn't matter if you were the headliner or not. We took care of the bands playing, and we treated them well. And we always took a lot of young bands that were young and upcoming. And at the moment, the festival is kind of paused, but we do the Sabaton cruise, and we do the same, like bringing bands that like, oh, have you ever been in Sweden or this? No, we never. Okay, well, come play. And so we do a lot of that, and we've always done. And I think it's sort of it should be something. I mean, I like that the heavy metal goes on, and whatever we have passes on. Some of the bands that we've been touring with, including the band that we're currently on tour with here, Judas Priest, they have knowledge that they pass on to bands like us. And we have also, our 25 years is nothing compared to Judas Priest. But at some point, we're gonna maybe be the 50 years anniversary and pass on something. Even now, we do have some experience that we pass on to younger, and I happily do it. I've been doing shitloads of coaching with young bands. I've been helping out, and whenever I have a little bit of time and some band asks me, I try to jump onto a call and see if I can give them some advice and stuff. So I see that it's part of, I don't know, my job or whatever, as or my responsibility to keep heavy metal alive for the future as well.
Oh, we metal fans appreciate that, and it also goes to show that you're just a good dude who just wants to pay it forward, and you know how you would like to be treated, and you have been treated, and just with that, because I don't want to keep you here too long. How has the tour with Judas Priest been going for you?
Oh no, this is awesome. I mean, it's our third tour with Priest, and it's
Sure. How's this current
in
one?
the Priest, and it's like it works super smooth. Everybody's in good mood, and we really fit, like, production wise, and it's like so easy. We share actually several crew members. Some of them are like with us when they are not with Priest, and some are with Priest when they are not with us. So and here they are all. So some of them work for the both bands on this tour. So it's super smooth, and we really enjoy it. And it works. I mean, we're two, as I said, they are over 50 years and we're 25 years. So we do bring a little bit of variation in terms of the audience and in terms of what's happening on the stage. But we are all heavy metal, and it's really good night. I think that the people who go home they look damn happy, I would say.
I can imagine. So, do you even though you've toured with Priest a few times and you've known Rob Halford, like, do you consider him a friend now, or do you think back to Little Par and be like, you still think, like, I can't believe that I'm talking to Rob Halford right now? We're touring together. We're colleagues, or are you friends? Again, how do you view it?
Well, I don't know how to respond to that. But
Okay, I'm projecting a
uh,
little bit because sometimes I get
there's
intimidated.
always like, there is something like you can be like, hey dude, how are you? Cool. And then there's always this moment when it's like, that's Rob. When he goes up to the stage and you're like, yeah, he's cool dude, and he is also the metal guy. So there is both of it, I would say.
I love that. Very cool. And if you may remember, and if you can't tell by my background, I don't have beautiful sunny skies. I have Guns N' Roses. I also have pictures of cats and things. But if you remember,
Perfect.
I won't ask you to take off your shirt this time if you remember, because last time you
Yeah.
showed us your Guns N' Roses tattoo on your back. You haven't touched it up, right? It's still the same.
It's still the same horrible, yeah.
I didn't think it was horrible. Just a little, faded because it's an old one. Because
Yeah.
When I talk to someone like you who's coming out with a concert film, and I think of Guns N' Roses, who taped a lot of that Use Your Illusion stuff that hasn't seen the light of day yet. And I guess this also goes back to, are you a colleague or are you still a fan? When you look at a band like Guns N' Roses now, do you look at them as a fan, or are you so busy in your own stuff that you can't look at it like that? Are you like, oh, what, look at
No,
Axl and Slashers are doing, or are you so focused on your own little world?
no, no. I'm a super fan of a lot of bands. So I mean, I wear, as you see, band shirts every day because it's like what I'm like, and I'm listening to a lot of newer bands and a lot of the old bands, and I do enjoy the what is going on, and I go to gigs, and when we are at festivals, I sneak out in the audience, and I do enjoy seeing some bands from the audience perspective. I like to be like feel the like not to stand on the side of the stage and watch the band and just hear the drums and a little bit from the horrible sound from the front of house or whatever. But I actually enjoy to be in the audience and feel that vibe and the power of the sound, and to see the band and see the band how they would like to be seen. So I do go and like sneak out and watch some bands, and I love it.
I love that. I don't know if last time I asked you what your favorite Guns N' Roses song was, because I know you said if people can go back and watch that episode, because you got that tattoo out of rebellion because they wouldn't let you go to see the Use Your Illusion tour. So there's that story. But if you can, what's your favorite, or is there ones that you like, or maybe a favorite to play if you do play in your spare time, or you have played in the past? I know there's nothing in the set like that, but just in
No, there's
general.
nothing in the set.
Of
No,
course, I
I
know
don't
that.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
what I would say, because of growing up in that time and just the memories, and we actually were discussing it on the tour bus earlier when um when we were listening to Forever by Kiss.
Mm.
Me and Tob, our guitar player, was discussing that when we were like 14, 15 years old, and we were in ninth grade in school, and there was the discos and stuff, and we hide away, and when they were dancing discos, and then we would sneak out when there was this. I have no idea if you have the same in America, but we had this hugging dancing for the slow songs, and you're like, and there was this. We said we had so much emotions to some of the songs, and like and then it's like when November Rain came out, and you like looked at the some like girl like in your class or whatever, and like now it's my chance to go out on the dance floor and like hug around for a long period of time, because November Rain was the best song because it's a long song. So whenever they play that, which was very rarely, but if they played it, you had a very long, nice, intimate hugging thing on the dance floor,
I
where
love
it was
that.
allowed for metalheads to also dance, so to say. And so I would say that one,
I
because of
that's a
just
great story. I know, I love that.
emotions of being 14-year-old metalhead and on a disco and and hugging a girl.
Oh, perfect. See, this is why I just asked those random connections. That's such a sweet and funny story, and I'm sure a lot of people can identify with that. The slow dancing to, a song that we like.
Yeah,
Instead of right on. So, Par, thank you so much for your time. I hope we get to do
thank
this
you.
again. And
Sure, we will.
stick around because I'm pairing this interview up with Tom Hunting of Exodus. Do you know him? Do you know any of those guys?
No, I actually don't. We are label mates, but I don't know.
All right. Well, this is going to be a label episode, so stick around for
Cool.
Tom Hunting. He also is. It's funny. You're outside, and your signal was clear. He's inside, and we had to fight through some troubles, but we'll stick around for
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay.
He's in
So
California, right?
yeah,
Good.
and he's in.
Brando, so I'm your 481st show?
You're my 480th. Did I say 481 by accident?
No, you said 40. I thought
Uh,
I thought, oh, that's a lot, man. You've been busy.
I have. I've been trying to keep busy, and this is kind of probably like you, just juggling multiple things because I actually do work in radio. this is kind
Yeah.
of like a passion project that's kind of melded itself into what I do. Actually, I worked the radio broadcast of the Hall of Fame induction last Saturday as we're taping this. I was the guy
Passion
pressing the.
projects are passion projects are sometimes the best projects.
You're absolutely right. I was pressing the dump button. I was that guy, but I'm not going to be doing that here. So some people are afraid to curse. If that you're that kind of guy, it's cool. But it's not about me. It's about you right now. Uh, lot. You're very busy. Actually, a good segue would be as I'm approaching. I was talking about this with my friend Graham today as I approach 500. Could is this the 45th year for Exodus? Is that the as we're counting like big? It's nothing compared
Oh,
to
let's
that.
see. I mean, I started high school in 1979, and we pretty much, formed a band that year. So, I mean, the nucleus, the makings of a band as teenagers. So, it's been a while.
It's I mean because you're a founding member. You were the guy again, like high school. Yes, that's the story, which is
I'm the
so
only
cool.
OG left in the band, but I mean, you could call Gary an OG too because he's been on every record, and I have not. So,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
well, I
he
mean, all respect to Gary Holt, of course.
he's OG. We're both OG.
So we're gonna talk about some of the. I guess maybe let's go begin with the OG, which is how vividly do you remember as we talk? I guess throughout a number 45. Actually, no, I did the math before. I'm not gonna pretend I know it. So at 45, and you're approaching 50 years as a band. We're not gonna talk about that. Maybe we will, but can you imagine high school? How vividly do you remember that? Like forming, like where were you when you were making this band? Were you, in someone's basement? Were you in music class? Were you, you smoking out someone's car? Like when did how vividly do you
Well,
remember those first few moments of creating this foundation that would last almost 50 years?
as much as my brain was soaked by THC back in those days, I remember it all pretty good.
Right on.
It started in high school jam rooms. We actually at Richmond High School we had a jazz band. I was part of that band, and we had rock band, which was something he created. It was 1979, so they were like it was very liberal where the arts was concerned, and what was in the schools, and you could virtually create these classes, and like you get credit for them. So I remember my teacher, Mr. Davis, in Richmond High School, and he let us jam upstairs, and that was like the first time, we're playing like Hold the Line by Toto, and Barracuda by Heart, and that kind of stuff, honing our chops. And then I went to El Sobrani, and then I met Kirk, and that's when we started playing music at his house and my mom's living room and her garage, and it just kind of evolved from there. And Kirk exposed us all to some like super obscure music. Like I had never heard Tokyo Tapes until I met him. I'd never heard of UFO. Like I knew of all, the American rock, like, Ted Nugent, Molly Hatchet, and, you know, um, all those band, Led Zeppelin, of course, and Aerosmith and all that. But yeah, and that we just kind of like started, our friend bought the first Iron Maiden album because of the picture. And 3 weeks later, we were playing that stuff at backyard parties, you know?
That's
So.
so I guess before I was gonna ask like how do you when you're kind of the foundation of this sound, how do you there's really not a lot to take from because you're the ones creating it, but at least now you're showing that Kurt is bringing in, so you're playing the heavier things than even though Hold the Line is a great song, don't get me wrong, but that's not how do you go from that to the foundation of thrash is quite a leap.
I think, you know, we Gary's older brother introduced us to punk rock because he was a punk rocker guy, and he introduced us to the Cro-Mags and Exploited and you know Sex Pistols and all that stuff, and we kind of took those influences along with the Iron Maiden influences, and little sprinkle of the earlier classic rock stuff we would be cranking all the time, and it just kind of evolved organically, and we were kids like learning our instruments, and we just wanted more, and we wanted to learn, and we wanted to play it as soon as possible. And you know, it was just the hunger of our formative years,
And
learning.
that and then hunger, I know of course there have been many lineup changes and including yourself, but still
Mhm.
Exodus as a I don't know, as a passion, as a force, has always existed, and it's, you obviously have been in it for since the beginning. We're set to embark on the Battle of 24 North American tour, so you're kicking out the rest of the year with a bang. So, what are you looking forward to most? Is touring the? I'm sure there's a lot that's changed, or maybe it's not. How do you view touring all these years later?
I think, touring was going strong, and then, 2020 COVID happened, and then for me personally, some other health stuff happened. And, once all the guidelines were lifted and we were able to like, you know, gather, and because everything we do is involves like putting as many people into a building as possible. So once those restrictions were up, people were back to support live music again. So we were a part of that, reopening, and it was fantastic. And it kind of like it's kind of leveled off a little bit, but we've been to Europe now a couple of times since then, probably 3 times. We've been done the States 3 times since then. So um, I'm excited to get out there because we're going to be doing a headlining set. We haven't done that for a long time, so we're just going to kind of we won't be regulated to an hour. We can play as long as we want. So who knows what's going to happen, you
Right
know?
on.
But
It,
I'm looking forward to that part of the journey because like we don't have any constraints. Not that those were bad because I love those tours we were on, but now is the time where we get to open up and play more of the catalog, maybe, and maybe be more experimental. Like I mean, Metallica can play a different set every night because they practice all those songs. So that's kind of the mission we're on now is to maybe play some different things.
any chance of something new being played?
Um, Nothing super new. I mean, all that stuff's still in the works, and like nothing's officially completed. Like we got the makings for like 6 or 7 amazing songs, but yeah, we're not ready to let that out yet. But
Okay.
maybe some covers, and maybe some deep cuts, if you will, like that haven't been played for a while, or if ever.
Very cool. Do you
Yeah.
remember? Because I've been asking now because I just became a dad. Well, I don't want to say just. He's 1.5, my son, and I
Oh,
can't
awesome.
wait to start to bringing him to concerts. He's been to Dave Matthews with my wife, whatever. I'm talking like rock concerts and stuff. How old are you, and what was your first concert?
Well, when I was a young kid, my mom took me to see Tammy Wynette, like country superstars, like from back in the day. I
Okay.
saw the Statler brothers and Ronnie Millsap and like all these old country greats. Prior to that, she had been to see Joe Cocker on the Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour in 1970. I just found that out recently, and I'm like, Mom, you are so cool to have been on at that show. My first concert by myself was Rush, Permanent Waves.
Very cool. I
I
like
think I
that.
was 14 or 15 or something. And we were all there, Kurt, Gary, whoever was in the band at that time. We all went
Sweet.
to see Rush. And, I was a little bit too young to see some of them other shows. I never got to see AC/DC with Bond.
Mm.
Like, I was like just past that generation to go to concerts by myself or to be released to. But
Right on. Let me get
once
you out of
once
the. Okay,
once
sir.
that was lifted, I was, you know, spending all my
That
money
was
on
it.
Day on the Green tickets.
Never look back. Never look back.
No,
So,
no, it
cool.
changed my life. When
How
when
could
when
it not?
Brian Johnson came out and rang that bell for Hell's Bells on the Back in Black tour, something happened.
Wow, yeah, I can't even imagine that. I'm lucky to have seen what I've seen, but that's not the bell is something that you see, and to me it's like folklore. I'm like I haven't like wow, okay, that's something. So I'll have stories from my son, and then he'll be impressed, but I can't impress you.
Totally.
But when I get you out of here on, if you can tell me, I don't know if you've seen or at least you can see right now my Guns N' Roses posters back here.
Yes.
It's my theme because everybody has a podcast. I got to be a little bit different. Have you ever seen Guns N' Roses in concert? And I always ask if there's a 6 degrees of what I call GNR bacon. Do you have any connection to any of the guys? Have you met them, crossed paths? So any Guns N' Roses stuff you can tell us.
I saw Guns N' Roses with Aerosmith. They were on tour, and it was in the 80s, maybe the late 80s. They were great. They still had Steven Adler on drums back then. They were kind of a mess, and they were kind of great too. They played great. It was just like raw, raunchy rock and roll. Aerosmith was kind of more clean and polished at that time. I got the feeling in the moment that Guns N' Roses was kind of like living the life that Aerosmith was only 10 years prior, you know, and like they had moved on to this, cleaner, more polished, less drugs.
Sure.
And I could see that on stage. Not that both bands weren't great. As far as a connection to Guns N' Roses, I have none. I seen them then, and I seen them. They played Hellfest one time, or at least it was Axl played. But I haven't seen Guns N' Roses play since then. I have no connection to them, other than I know that Slash knows about thrash, and he likes thrash music, and he likes heavier bands and stuff like that. So,
Sure.
And he's just a phenomenal force. He's one of those guitar players when you're hearing him, like Joe Walsh, like they could just step out, hit a couple notes, and it's them. Michael Schenker, another, So.
All right. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, the only one I found isn't a direct connection to you, but just Exodus overall. That there was a former vocalist. Where is it? I have it. Oh yeah, Rob Dukes, of course. He was produced by Bumblefoot for some songs for DMC from Run DMC on an album a few years ago. So I mean, that's some real, again, 6 degrees of stuff. Again, all an excuse for me to get my theme going, but also an excuse to talk to you, Tom. I really appreciate your time today. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to talk to you on each anniversary of this amazing band. And
thanks, man.
So that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. When will you see the next one? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.